Variables can store different types of data, and each data type will work differently. On a higher level, Python data types can be divided into 6 buckets. First, Boolean, which means true or false. Then numeric. In numeric, it can be divided into 3 parts: integer to hold whole numbers, float to hold decimal points, number which are in fractions, and then the complex. We will not cover complex in this section, but this is just to let you know. Third data type is text, which is stored using a string, which is an ordered sequence of character. Apart from this, there are 3 more classifications covering containers. Containers are any object that hold an arbitrary number of other objects. Generally, containers provide a way to access the contained objects and to iterate over them. There are basically 3 types of containers. First one, sequence, which allows ordering. We have list and tuple. Then we have mapping, where there is a key value pair. And the third one is set, which allows unordered collection of unique objects. In sequence, the major difference between list and tuple is that tuple is not mutable. That means it cannot be changed. Similarly, in set, the frozen set cannot be changed. It is an immutable version of the set. We are going to look at each one of them in more details using Python notebook. So let's cover and look into these 8 data types in more details: Boolean, integer, float, string, set, list, tuple, and dictionary. So let's begin with binary. If you have to define a binary data type, you can either write true with capital T or false with capital F. These 2 keywords will declare true and false data types. Now, if you want to see what is the data type, what is the class of a variable. So for example, if I say I have a variable and which is Boolean and I am assigning it a value true. Now suppose if I want to see that once a variable Boolean is given to you, what is the type, then simply use the function type and just pass the object. In our case, it would be var bool and just put shift enter. So as you can see, the data type of var bool is Boolean. Next, see how to use a print function to print the values. So for example, we have defined a variable var bool. Now we want to print its value. So simply type print in parentheses and give the variable name. So as you can see, I have pressed tab. If you press tab, then it will give list of all the variables starting with that name, and then you can select the one. So if I say print var boolean, then it will print the value. If you want, you can also give some comment before it. For example, you can write print value of variable is and then variable. So as you can see, whatever you give in comma separated values would be printed in one line by print function. Next, let's cover integers. Integers are the whole numbers and you can simply type the number. For example, if you type 2, it becomes an integer, right? If you want, you can also put it into a variable. For example, var int is equal to 2 and then say print var int. So tab, and then you can see the third one is var int. Just select enter and then print it. Next, float. The float data type has decimal point with it. So the integers are the whole numbers without any decimals, but the float will be the fractions. So for example, if you want to have a fraction where you want to say 0.5, then you say var, and you can write any suffix. For example, I'll say var 1, and then I'll say I'm giving it 0.5 value, and then I can simply say print var 1. Now this is going to print 0.5 on the screen. Next, we are going to cover string. To define a string, we can use single quotes or double quotes. For example, we can write single quotes, hi. It will define a string with 2 characters, capital H and I. We can also use double quotes to define the same, capital H and I, and then shift enter. Please note that the characters are not just the literals like alphabets HI, but it can also be special characters or it could be number. For example, if we define a variable string, then we can give it numbers or characters or the alphabets or special characters like @ $. And if we print it, it will give the string with all the characters we have put up there. There are a lot of cool methods that we can use on a string, and we are going to cover them in the later section. Now let's move on with the next data type, which is list. List is ordered collection of objects. That means whatever objects are stored in this list, they would be ordered. To define a list, we will use the square brackets. So for example, we say var list, and then in square brackets, whatever you write, for example, 1, 2, 3, then it becomes a list. And if you print it, you can get 3 elements in this list. Next data type is tuple. Tuple is almost like list, except that it is immutable. That means we cannot change it. So let's say we can define it just using parentheses. So for example, we can simply say tuple and then 1, 2, 3, and then again we will just say print the tuple. As you can see, there are 3 elements here, 1, 2, and 3. And when it is printed, it is surrounded by the parentheses. That indicates it's a tuple. If you want, you can use type, and then you can provide the object, which is var tuple, and then you can see it is showing the output as tuple. The next data type is dictionary. Dictionary is a data type that has a key value pair. So each value is given a key which becomes the handle to access that element. To define a dictionary, we will use the curly braces. So let's say we have a variable var dictionary, then we will define curly braces and say we will define a becomes our key and the value is 1. Then the key is b and the value is say 2. In this dictionary, we have 3 elements, rather 3 key value pairs. Key 1 is A and the value is 1. The second key is B and the value is 2. The third key is C and the value is 3. Now if you simply say print var dictionary, then print will just print it on the console. The next data type is set. This is unordered collection of unique and mutable elements. So if you have to define a set, you will use curly braces. The only difference is there will not be any keys. So we will say var and then say set is equal to curly braces and then 1, 2, and 3. So as you can see, there is no key here. And then if you say print, then you can simply print the variable. So as you can see, 1, 2, 3 is printed, and this time it is surrounded by curly braces. That means it is a set type. If you want, you can check it using type function and then providing the object var set. And then you can see the type is set. Now that we have a quick look at the 8 key data types available in Python, let's see what kind of operations we can perform on these data types. For this, we will use something called operators.